We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, July 8th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin and you're watching News Generation. Today we're joined by Choi Ji-hee.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And Im Sang-yeon.
Happy rainy Monday.
Happy rainy Monday. Now both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. We start in the Gaza Strip, where at least 16 people have died and dozens injured after an Israeli airstrike hit a United Nations-run school where people were sheltering, according to the Hamas-run health ministry on Saturday. Israel says it struck several, quote, terrorists operating in structures located in the area of the school. Moving on, Korea's Incheon International Airport has been ranked third on the UK's Skytrax World Best Airports of 2024 list. This marks the first time the airport has reclaimed a top 3 position since 2019. In first place is Qatar's Doha Hamad International Airport, followed by Singapore's Changi Airport. The rankings are based on a survey conducted by Skytrax, which involved passengers from over 100 countries, evaluating 570 airports on an airport's immigration processes, hygiene, shopping areas, security, and overall service. Finally, former football player and current head coach of the K-League's Ulsan HDFC, Hong Myung-bo, has been appointed as the new manager of the Korea men's national football team. This announcement was made by the Korea Football Association on Sunday. The team has been under interim management for 5 months after former manager Jurgen Klinsmann was fired in February following Korea's disappointing performance at the Asian Cup in Qatar. There's been a lot of anticipation about who the KFA would choose, as we're only 2 years away from the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So for those of our viewers who might not be familiar with Hong Myung-bo is, could you please provide more information on him, Sang-yeon?
Well, he's literally the legend in the Korean football history. So he was the captain of the Taeguk Warriors during the 2002 World Cup. As a defense, he has played in the official rounds of World Cup for 4 times between 1990 to 2002. And Hong already led the national football team from 2013 to 2014 during the Brazil World Cup. And his best performance was during the 2012 London Olympic, when the Korean football national team won the 3rd place at the time. So with that being said, he's now returning as a coach after a decade period. So currently the public sentiment is favorable to Mr. Hong, but there are some football fans of the K-League who are criticizing the National Football Association that they are actually using Mr. Hong as the chess knight for their use. So I think that he will do better than the formal the coach, but I think Hong is currently the right choice for us now.
I think so as well, because he has a lot of experience, plentiful experience, both as an athlete and as a coach, even the coach of the men's national team 10 years ago. Now, Ji, I want to ask you, the men's national team actually has been through a rough patch over the past few months. So I want to ask you, with a new coach now in charge, as a person who loves to play and also watch football, what kind of hopes do you have for the team as we head into the 2026 World Cup?
Well, the decision itself is not a surprise, but then I'm pretty excited because of this news, because as Sang-yeon well explained, Hong Myung-bo is a legend in Korean football.
Right.
And as a fan of the sport myself, like you said, I'm hoping to see some positive changes and improvements with him in leadership. And firstly, so I'd like to see improved tactics.
Oh, right.
Because when Klinsmann was in charge, it seemed like the team's potential and strengths were not fully realized, despite having some of the best players in our team. And secondly, I want to see renewed team spirit, because South Korea is definitely known for its passionate playing style, and of course the passionate cheering spirit of the spectators as well, the Red Devils. And we're hopefully going to see that as well. And hopefully Hong can reignite that fighting spirit and get the team playing with a lot of heart. And lastly, I wish for a stronger defense because because I've watched some of the games in the past where our weak defense led to unnecessary scores by the opponent. And Hong was, as we all know, when he was playing back in the days, he was a world-class sweeper. So hopefully he can instill that defensive solidity back into the team.
Oh, you do sound like a football expert. Well, we all wish for the best of the Korean men's national team and to its new coach, Hong Myung-bo, and that was our news feed for this Monday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. In a world where almost everything seems to be going digital now, more people are using the latest tech to manage even their finances. Take a look at the screen to find out more.
Remember the old days when you had to visit a bank branch, call customer services, or use an ATM to handle your banking? Well, things have changed a lot. Thanks to technological advancements and the move away from face-to-face services during the COVID-19 pandemic, online banking is now super easy and accessible. Now you can do transactions and even apply for loans with just a few taps and swipes on your phone.
Right, so as we're often called the tech-savvy generation, Millennials and Gen Z, it seems like the younger generation, us, are leading the way with digital finance. So I want to start off by asking you, T, is this true? And when did this trend of digital financing kick off?
Well, it's definitely true, and we've seen this trend growing for the past few years, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic as well, when everything went contactless.
Right.
And it's especially true among the younger generation as well. So in the past, people used to physically go to a bank for financial or banking matters, and many elderly people still do because they think it's more comfortable and convenient. However, this is not the case for the MZers today. So let's take a look at the screen to find out more. So based on the graph, it's evident that a majority of MZers, 6 out of 10 that is, have opted not to visit a bank in the last 3 months. And the predominant financial platform used during this period was mobile banking with 99% prevalence, while only 42% had physically visited a bank. So when I think about it as well, I realize it's been a while since I last visited a bank as well.
Me too.
Yeah, I remember you saying 4 years back.
I think
that was the last time.
4
At
years
least.
ago, at least 4 years ago. First time it was when I was 20 years old, when I went to open my first bank account as an adult. And the second time was when I lost my security card. So probably 4 years ago.
Okay. Well, I believe it was when I had to open a new ISA account around last year, that is. And apart from that, even when you need to exchange currency for traveling abroad, you can easily use mobile banking and collect the exchange money at the airport. So it's become so convenient, and us being tech savvy, we're choosing to make the most out of the tools we have at hand.
Right, and I heard that it's not only Millennials and Gen Z, the younger generation, that were spotting this trend. It's really taken off across all age groups, right, Sang-yeon?
Right, so basically the bank online transactions are growing in number, not only the MZers, but all across Korea. So if you look at the deposits and withdrawals in and out of bank accounts for this first quarter, more than 80% of them were made via online. And in light of this change, there are now many new banks popping up without on-site locations, and such as Kakao Bank. And also many bank branches across Korea are now shutting down because the popularity of these mobile application has gone up.
Right. I think it's because with just a few touches and a few swipes, we can do transactions, we can open bank accounts, we can even get loans. So it's definitely, this trend has taken off among all generations. So here in the studio, I want to ask you, do you also use these digital services or digital financial or banking services a lot? I'm pretty sure you have. And as a user, what do you think are some of the pros and cons?
Well, I'm an active user of digital banking, but then everything has its ups and downs. But when it comes to digital banking services, I think there are more advantages than cons because I'm a user myself. And some of them are that they're convenient, of course, and simple to use. And when you go to a physical bank, you often have to take a waiting number and wait for your turn.
Right.
However, with digital banking, you can save time as there's no waiting. The only thing to keep in mind, however, is to avoid using mobile banking apps during the maintenance hours.
Which is often midnight.
Yeah, exactly. But that's often when youngsters, including yourself,
Yeah, we're
Eugene,
really active as night owls.
yes, we often do our transactions during that time. But anyhow, if you avoid those times, it can be very convenient. And also, you can receive real-time notifications of your cash flow and make transactions across different banks. So these services are especially useful as well when you need to minimize contact with people. So it was very convenient during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And I think that another advantage of using these digital banking services is that the banks that we have to visit in person, they have really short operating hours.
That's right.
Here in Korea, they usually end around at 4 p.m. So for office workers like us, it's really hard for us to actually go to the bank except for lunchtime.
Right.
But for digital banking services, you can use them literally anytime. So I think that's one of the advantages of these services. So I think that Jihi prefers to use digital banking rather than visiting a bank in person. So I want to ask you, what about you, Sang-yeon?
Yeah, Rose. Excuse me. So I do use online bank services, but I rather prefer visiting the bank in person because online banking surely gives you the convenience, but it has some limits because the AI assistant is the one that actually makes the replies. It is set based on this algorithm, and if the inquiries got more complex and deeper, then all you get is this repetitive answer that you should call the customer service center. Then in that case, that would be quite a waste of time because I should have done that in the first place.
Right.
And online banking is not an easy shortcut for adults, especially our parents' generation, because they're not that tech savvy, unlike the MZers. So my parents often ask me, I think I touched this wrong, can you come and fix it? So there's this also potential risk of scams and phishing targeting this old generation. And it has been said that people tend to let their guards down since the launch of these online mobile applications because you can do things with a simple touch. And that's why more people are becoming unaware of applying for loans without thinking about the consequences.
That may be one of the reasons why
Right.
we're seeing debt snowballing here in the country. And also, I think despite the digital banking services having a lot of conveniences, they're really complex, even for young people like us, because they have so many services available. They have so many tabs that we can click on. So I think that those are the pros and cons of using these platforms. And so we also asked our viewers if their countries are also experiencing a rise in digital banking as well, like here in Korea. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Tasmia says mobile banking has been popular in Bangladesh since 2015 as it's a part of digital Bangladesh, a dream that was introduced by our government. Benny says here in the Philippines, yes, mobile banking is helpful, especially when the banks are offline but you want to pay your bills. Leon says yes, they are becoming increasingly popular in Singapore too, as mobile banking often integrates with contactless payment options. Also, mobile banking apps allow users to access their bank accounts and conduct transactions. This eliminates the need to visit physical bank branches during operating hours. So based on our comments, we can see that digital banking and digital finance services has really taken off in other parts of the world as well. So now, to learn more about the digitalization trend in banking, as well as other finance trends we're seeing among millennials and Gen Z, we're going to invite an expert into our discussion right after the break. So today we're joined by Ho Jun-young, Associate Professor of Economics at Seogang University. Welcome, Professor Ho, to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you, Professor. So our first question for you today is, what do you think is driving the rapid growth of digital banking, which was what we discussed earlier?
Yeah, there can be many driving forces, but let me list 3 of them. So first, the rise of millennials. Millennials who have emerged as the main consumer group worldwide are so familiar with digital technology that they are often called digital generation. So they seek new and fresh experiences and tend to prefer handling tasks through non-face-to-face means such as mobile devices. And second, the rise of mobile devices. So mobile devices such as smartphones have become mediums that integrate various lifestyle services for modern people. So the dependence on mobile devices has grown so high that without them, a modern individual would find daily life not just inconvenient, but almost impossible. So lastly, the advancements of internet technology has triggered digital innovation. Especially Korea is like well recognized as the one of the most advanced internet technology. So.
I see. Well, my second question to you is, Professor, we're also noticing that a lot of younger people are choosing to make their own investments without guidance from experts. Is that true? And what new trends do you expect to see in how the younger generation handle their finances?
That's true. So according to recent research in Korea, the major source of how younger people obtain financial investment information is directly through websites and applications rather than from experts. So regarding their financial behavior, I think over 80% of them hold high risk assets such as stocks and crypto assets. So youngsters show a tendency to actively invest in risk assets centered around a new financial environment based on mobile technology. So also younger people in Korea, although active in investing in risk assets, tend to have diversified investment portfolios rather than concentrated ones and prefers medium risk or lower portfolio over higher risk ones. This is another feature of the Korean youngsters in these days.
Okay, so Professor, then what do you think are the main advantages and disadvantages of digital banking services?
There are pros and cons of using digital services. The advantages of digital banking include the fact that customers can conduct financial transactions more easily and conveniently. Additionally, online banking and fintech services offer lower fees and faster transaction processing, as you guys mentioned before. However, there are also disadvantages to digital banking. The security issues remain a concern, and there are accessibility problems for people who are not familiar with using digital financial services.
All right, Professor Hall, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so as Professor Hall just mentioned, this trend that we're seeing in digital banking and finance is actually part of the larger trend towards contactless services driven by digitalization. So in general, what do you think are some of the pros and cons of contactless services?
Well, contactless services in general, I have mixed feelings about them increasing. While it's comfortable not having, for example, to interact with people all the time when, for example, making orders, I'm concerned about the rise of what's called shadow labor. And shadow labor refers to a kind of unpaid work that seems to be growing in this digital age without many of us even noticing. So a good example would be with the introduction of more checkout kiosks at stores and marts, customers are now doing the tasks that were previously performed by paid cashiers. We've never thought about it though.
Right.
So this unpaid work done by customers is what I'm referring to as shadow labor. And it seems like this type of work is becoming more prevalent in the digital age without many of us even noticing.
Right, because we first created these services for our convenience, but on the other hand, we're actually doing more labor.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like the opposite of what we're trying to achieve. Now, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so adding on to what she mentioned, I think the biggest problem would be the lack of communication with the spread of these contact-free services. And there has also been articles that dealt with low literacy of children that were born during the pandemic. And if many things go online, people will have difficulties communicating with each other, and this will lead to the lack of care and consideration to others. And also, I'm glad that, excuse me, I can use the kiosk at the groceries if I only have to buy one or two things in portion. But the flip side there is that someone has lost his job. So I don't think that AI will totally replace the human labor, but there will be some portion of people losing their job. And lastly, we've talked about this numerous times, but adults and even myself are not really used to fully utilizing these mobile technologies. And there's a possibility of scam or cyber attacks by these mobile applications. There has been a recent case where the hackers actually designed these mobile websites as same as the actual banking websites, and this can actually trick not only the elderly but the young people like ourselves.
Right, so I think that these are definitely things that we should be mindful of when using digital banking and finance platforms, not only those, but also when using contactless services. And that's all the time we have for today, but NewsGen is here every morning from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee.
Thank you.
And Im Sang-yeok.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.